Jody, we have a Stefan or Steven? S-T-E.
Stefan,
Stefan, okay. Hi there.
greetings.
Hey. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. We're still waiting for people to arrive, so you're one of the first.
Okie doke. Well, I'll just keep an eye on you then as I work on the other side.
All right. You are live in the audio side, so if you want to mute yourself, that's fine too.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And the live stream is up. I will say this is much easier than doing the phone line streaming. A little bit harder on the startup side, but on the during the maintenance of it, man, it's a lot easier. It's actually cooler in here, Mark. You know that?
I have that question.
Cooler in here than it is in our building. That's hard to believe.
Are you okay with this close?
Yeah.
You do every other.
So earlier today when they were using this, if they were back here, boy, it's not as sensitive as those. Did they turn it down? Or? Okay, so that's why it's not getting the volume that it used to. Boy, I mean, actually the one that was really hitting it was Barbara today when she was popping the peas like crazy. She was doing the 20-year anniversary people today, and she's talking with a microphone right in front of the speakers. So the second she'd say it, whoa, you know.
Oh, that's why that was.
Yeah, we're like, oh,
I had it on my phone.
Yeah, we wanted her to move, but it was too late. We had a line of people doing the non-handshake congratulations. Yeah. Awkward.
The way she started it off, I thought we were gonna be there for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it started rolling and she started coming.
I love it when she's trying to do the names.
Right, so
She got Jackivitis.
yeah, poor Heidi. Is that the hand sanitizer? Do we have anybody else on or just?
Chris Caius and stuff.
Really short meeting. Well, I still got the whole spiel. Yeah.
Who's the chair?
Dale Berman from North.
I don't think we're approving
Your
minutes.
number off that email.
Okay. I don't see anybody yet. We just got another person. You got Monica Silva.
I'm here.
Hi there. This
Hi.
is Roger. Hey, we're
Hi,
still
Roger.
waiting for some of the board members to arrive, including the chair, Berman. So we got a long ways to go to get a quorum.
Okay, I'll put you down for a second. I'll leave the voice on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Hey, we got Matt Broly.
Yes.
Hi there. This is Roger from the IT department. We're still waiting for some people to arrive for quorum. So just hang in there.
All right, will do.
Thank you.
Have you used the recorder before? The little guy? Yeah, and the numbers. If the numbers are moving, it's good. Roger, it automatically records.
No. Is that what you want it to do?
Yeah, I think.
Mark, you can record that part. We're recording it also to YouTube live stream. So we'll have a live stream of
Oh,
the
okay.
recording, but Mark can, if there's a memory card in there, Mark can record it. Yeah.
Oh, that's what we need, the little,
Yeah. Jarrett Sanchez is on,
you want me to get it?
and then we have one call in from a phone. Yeah.
Is that me, Rob Linky, Roger?
Might be. Who was that?
Chris
again?
Caius.
Chris, we got Chris. Who was the other caller?
Rob Linky with Water Resources?
Yeah, that's Rob. Rob's called in.
Do we know him? It's a
Hernandez just joined.
Good afternoon. Let's see. We're still waiting for the committee chair, Berman. All right.
Hey, Rob.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's Chris. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. What can I do for you?
Rob Linky.
Good. I'm just going to relate my my wild bergamot plant out here is just going crazy with bumblebees.
Oh,
You're the plant guy, right?
yeah. It's that time of year. Unfortunately, they're not long for this world here. After this, though, they'll start drying out real quick.
Oh, will they? Oh, darn.
Oh, in the folder.
They're just going nuts.
I was out yesterday in the 10-acre open space property behind us. It's part of our common area, and we were out pulling white sweet clover, and
Have
it
somebody
was
else
amazing.
take over? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop. But it was amazing the amount of bees that are out there. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there vice?
We've got Broly, Hernandez, Silva. Sanchez. One, two, three, four, five, six. He needs 6. You got 4 right now. Okay. I'm not familiar with the guy's stuff. Okay, so you got 5 then. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Easier when you can see them, right?
No, I don't. We actually don't use video.
Oh.
Yeah, it's too dangerous.
That's true.
Audio's bad enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to see people, but that's just, yeah. Like today's meeting for county board online, we had maybe at some point in time 40 people. So if they're all on video, Lord knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we try not to do too
That
much
you're playing
video.
the odds there.
I'm getting faster at shutting things down. Usually use like 3 strikes, right? First time, okay. Second time, third time, you know what? So if you're joining us by web conference, we need, I believe, one more person to have a quorum. And we also do not have Chair Berman. So we're going to have somebody take over as chair, even if we want to go through without a quorum for this meeting. So Jody, is that up to the committee, or do you want to help them? I nominate, no.
By show of hands.
Yeah. We got Jared on here.
Jared's a member.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he could.
Are you making a motion, Roger?
Jarrett, I'm not a member of this committee, but somebody needs to elect a chair from the body in order to get on and run the meeting. So hang on.
Well, I'm here if we need to do that.
This is Stephen Pickett. I nominate Matt Broley to be the pro temp chair in the absence of Dale Berman.
Yep. Oh. So it's over here.
That's fine with me. I don't know what I ever did to you, Stefan.
I figured you
I believe
I'm just
that you
kidding.
guys have
get the first hit in, Matt.
There you
I believe
go.
you have a quorum now. So whoever you guys want to act as the chair, I think you have a quorum. And who does your roll call, Jody? So Courtney, if you wanted to do roll call for these folks and call the meeting to order, who is going to be the chair for the
I
record?
nominate Matt Broley, Stephen Pickett.
We got a nomination for Matt. Any objectors besides Matt?
No
Matt,
objection.
Matt, do you mind?
No, I don't. That's fine. Let's rock and
Okay.
roll.
All right, Matt, we're going to call the meeting to order and we're going to get the roll call, and then you do have a quorum, so you can do the approval of minutes.
Okay.
A roll call, please. You need the mic. Yeah.
Now it is.
Yes.
Broley,
Here.
Berman, Burns, Captain, Pickett,
Go.
Michaels, Hernandez,
Here.
Silva,
Silva is here.
Martin, Allen, Sanchez,
Here.
Leonard,
Here.
Lausen, Braz, O'Connor,
I think that's Nelson now, right?
Nelson, okay.
And you said we do have a quorum?
Well, I don't know if you guys count ex officio as members. I don't believe you do. So you have
No.
a quorum of 6.
Okay, perfect. And just for the benefit of those that are on their phone, could the staff that's on the call introduce themselves as well?
Sure.
I am Courtney Meyer, the admin with Water Resources.
Ann Wilford with Water Resources, Stormwater Manager.
Jody Walnick,
Rob
Director,
Linke.
Water Resources.
And Rob Linke with Water Resources as well.
Mark
All right,
Smith with IT.
And then you got Roger Fonstock with IT.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Perfect. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for doing this on Zoom. Staff, I really appreciate putting this together. Would like to move on to the second item. up for action today, which is the approval of minutes from our June 11th meeting of 2019. And before we have a motion and a second, if you could state your name prior to the motion. And then I did want to confirm with staff, can we approve this via a voice vote, or do we have to have a roll call?
The state's attorney's office has recommended roll call votes for
That's what I thought.
everything short of adjournment.
Perfect. Okay. If there are any comments or questions, corrections on the minutes, otherwise I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Leonard, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Pickett.
All right. Can you call the roll?
Broly,
Yes.
Pickett,
Yo,
and Hernandez,
Yes.
Silva,
Silva, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Nelson. Oh, Nelson's not here.
All right. And it appears the minutes have been approved. Congratulations. I'll move right into the third bullet point here is public comments is required. Has anybody reached out either via email or called in with any comments for this meeting? Or is there anybody there in person that wants to make a comment?
We have not received any comments and there's no public present.
Okay. Perfect. So we'll move into the presentation, Kane County Hazard Mitigation Plan. I'll turn that over to staff.
Thank you, Matt. It's Ann Wilford with King County Water Resources. I'm presenting this hazard mitigation planning process presentation on the behalf of the King County Natural Hazards Mitigation Committee. Thank you. King County adopted their hazard mitigation plan in 2003. It was approved by the county board at that time. And then the other jurisdictions that participate in that, the municipalities adopted it after that. The plan is to be updated every 5 years, and we're at our 5-year mark again for 2020. The outcome for today in talking to you about this plan is to define hazard mitigation, to lay out that planning process, and to discuss outreach that's involved in the planning process. So first of all, what is hazard mitigation? And FEMA defines that as any sustained action taken to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to human life and property from hazard mitigation, or from a hazard event, sorry. And then the presentation, if you're following along, includes some examples of mitigation. So there's acquisition. Here we have a park district that's acquired floodplain property, and Campton Township has some open space. These are methods of dealing with flooding. Sorry. Another mitigation is elevation of homes. This is an example of a home here in Kane County in unincorporated Algonquin, where they've elevated a home that repeatedly flooded to the point of being substantially damaged. And the folks were able to maintain the same living footprint, but elevate it, put a garage underneath that's open to floodwaters, and the living space is free from flooding. So safe room for tornadoes is another example of a mitigation. So what is hazard mitigation planning? That's engaging in any process to identify risks and vulnerabilities associated with natural hazards and develop long-term strategies for protecting people and property from future hazard events. Hazard mitigation activities may be implemented prior to, during, or after an event. And as FEMA points out, it has been demonstrated that hazard mitigation is most effective when based on inclusive, comprehensive, long-term planning that is developed before a disaster occurs. These hazard mitigations are required under federal regulations. The Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 establishes the eligibility of FEMA hazard mitigation assistance. And local governments must have a hazard mitigation plan submitted and reviewed by the state and by FEMA to have many of these funds available to them. Under Title 44, Code of Federal Regulations 201.6 outlines the requirements of such a plan. Here's the example, just to show you the cover sheet of our current plan for natural hazard mitigation. And then just to let you know, we do annually report on our goals that are within that plan. And there's the cover sheet for the 2019 plan. It's available, should be available on your municipality's websites. It's also available through the website with the Office of Emergency Management for King County. So as we go through the different tasks in planning our hazard mitigation plan, an important part of that is determining the planning area. King County's plan is actually a multi-jurisdictional plan, so it includes our municipalities. And recently, Elgin Community College has adapted our plan as well. So they're part of the King County Hazard Mitigation Plan. So as you assess your planning area, it's important to have participation from all those planning communities to assess the unique risks of our different communities and the type of mitigation activities that make sense. And it's also vital that all those other municipalities adopt the plan that's been approved. Who should be part of our planning team? Stakeholders are an important part, and getting buy-in from the public. And then, of course, part of building that team is providing or promoting participation. We want to make sure that we include building code officials, our emergency management folks, fire departments, and police are an important part. Floodplain folks, our GIS is a vital part of our hazard mitigation planning committee. Parks and recreational departments participate in a lot of our acquisition mitigation. Our public works folks, obviously our stormwater management, transportation, and then our elected officials, of course, is an important part that we want to participate, as well as many other stakeholders that volunteer their time in our community. So, create an outreach strategy. The planning process shall include an opportunity for the public to comment on the plan during the drafting stage and prior to plan approval. So as we go through this planning process, we'll be asking the public to attend various meetings, however they're possible in this day and age. So as we originally started looking at our outreach, we were talking about having open houses and walking tours of the county, and some of those have become more challenging now in this COVID age that we're doing. So we're looking at other possibilities of virtual meetings. There's apps available, although there's none available for Illinois. There are apps that will walk you through different flood scenarios. And self-guided tours is something that is used in some communities and would be a viable option just to demonstrate to folks what type of hazard mitigation techniques are out there and being utilized by our community. So public meetings are changing as evidenced by today. So thank you for participating, and hopefully we can get our public excited and participating in the process as well. Task 4 involves a community reviewing their capabilities. So what do we have as our toolbox to mitigate And some of those things include our planning and regulatory capabilities. So things like our stormwater management ordinance, our green infrastructure plan, our 2040 plan are available to us. Our administrative and technical staff, so our engineers and our building reviewers, our fire departments, our Office of Emergency Management, those technical folks that deal with this throughout their career. And then obviously money is a type of capability that we like to have. And I've shown an example there of the hazard mitigation funds that are available. Obviously, some communities have rain tax and different methods of funding. And then importantly also is education and outreach so that folks understand the hazards in their community. Task 5 involves conducting a risk assessment. So we want to make sure that we're looking at all natural hazards that affect our jurisdiction. We want to look at what's happened in the past and the probability of them happening in the future, and what type of impact those hazards have had on the community. Another part of the assessment is determining structures that have been repetitively damaged that are insured by our National Flood Insurance Program. And then another part of the assessment is to review and revise the plan to reflect changes that have occurred in development. And as we discuss our risks, we consider what assets a community has. The assets are the people that live in there. We want to consider the concentration of the people, the access of needs by the
What
population.
does he want? Yeah,
Muted.
Okay. And the vulnerable populations as we go through our community assets. So the economy is another asset. Who's the major employer? What are your commercial centers? Agriculture is an important part of our economy here in King County. And then the dependency of that economy on the infrastructure. So the other assets we talk about are the structures within the community, the critical infrastructure and facilities, and then our natural environment. In the past, we've looked at what's happened in Kane County and severe storms and floods, winter storms we're all familiar with. The Illinois Mitigation Plan of 2017 identified the following risks: severe storms, floods, severe winter storms, drought, extreme heat, earthquake, and tornado. And those are ranked from severe to low. And those are the hazards that were required by FEMA and by the state to address in our plan. This slide is just to include, just to emphasize the change in development within a community. So this slide's actually from 1993, not from 2003 when we first adopted our plan. But as your plan changes over time and development changes, the needs of your community change. And so this is an area around Pingree Grove from 1993 to 2020. And obviously there's a change in development in that area. The next slide's just to remind you that the National Flood Insurance Program is to be incorporated into the plan itself and addressing repetitively flooded structures that are insured under the National Flood Insurance Program. So every year you need to address that in our annual reporting, and it's an important part of the overall plan itself. One more. There. Developing a mitigation plan. So for every hazard, we need a minimum of 2 goals within our plan, and we can reevaluate the current goals that we have to make sure that those are goals that are making sense. So you can have more than 2 goals, but a minimum of 2. Okay, potential actions that we can take based on those hazards and our capabilities. These are just some examples from communities. Watershed plans are an example. Elevating utilities are an example. Education, you can see the gentleman there with the flood tank to show what happens to a community when it's flooded. I included a slide of or a picture of some goats there in California. Goats are part of their community's mitigation plan for fire hazard. So the goats eat the dry grasses. So. One more try. Task 7 is why we're here today and talking about this, keeping the plan current. Again, we're at our 5-year cycle, and we'll be at another cycle in 2025 with another chance to reevaluate our hazard mitigation plan. Task 8, to have the plan reviewed and adopted. Again, the public needs a chance to have a look at the plan and comment on the plan, and we intend to invite the public throughout the process to attend our hazard mitigation committee meetings. So the state reviews it, FEMA reviews it, then if we get the all-go from FEMA, the county adopts it, and then the local jurisdictions can adopt it. In task 9, once our plan is adopted, we want to create a safe and resilient community using our hazard mitigation plan. Things to do. Thank you today for participating in the meeting. As we have further meetings, so we invite you to participate in those. The topics that the Natural Hazard Mitigation Committee will be meeting on include assessing the hazards, setting the goals, reviewing possible activities, and then we'll have a draft action plan, which will be open to everyone to attend as well. And what can we all do? We can talk to our local planners, our engineers, our emergency management staff, our first responders, local officials, stakeholders, community leaders, and residents, and get them involved. We'll get feedback, and then what can we do? We can make a plan that works for Kane County, exclamation point. Thank you for your time. I appreciate everyone attending, and thank you to fellow water resource staff for helping with this, and to our Hazard Mitigation Committee for their help in presenting this today, and to our very capable IT staff as well. If there's any questions or comments.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments for staff on the presentation? I don't think you stated in there specifically, but what's the timeline look like for approval? I'm assuming this year.
Yeah, so by end of January, there is talk of extending that because folks have had to adjust their plans with the pandemic. But the hope is to have a draft for October available for public review. So there'll be meetings throughout August and September reviewing those other components.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Are there any questions for staff? All right, hearing none, thank you.
Thank you
for the presentation. And we'll go ahead and move on to item 6 on our agenda today, which is to discuss the stormwater ordinance and potential topographical amendments. And I don't know who from staff has taken this item.
That would be Jody Walnick. Thank you. Just wanted to give you a quick update in regards to kind of a educational process that went on at the beginning of the year in regards to the ordinance changes. We were able to host a kind of Stormwater 101 for our community certified reviewers in January. That was very well attended. The PowerPoint presentation from that meeting is on our website, if anyone is interested in going through a quick review of the ordinance changes. In February, we were able to host again with our certified communities and their reviewers a second set of presentations in regards to the floodplain changes to the ordinance. Again, that was very well attended. And unfortunately, the third meeting that was to be held in March on the wetlands section had to be done remotely as it was in the thick of the changes that were occurring with the COVID. So all the meetings were well attended, and the presentations are available on the website if you're interested in looking at those. We also had the opportunity to present the ordinance changes at Elgin Community College and at Kane DuPage. So hopefully the word has been getting out. We have had a handful of questions from different communities and certified reviewers in regards to the ordinance changes. But so far we've heard that is very well received. And so it's been a great document, and I know we've enjoyed using it internally on the unincorporated Kane County properties. And it's very, very much easier to use than the previous version of the ordinance. So when we went to the codifier to have the ordinance codified, the codifier actually goes through a process in which they really kind of beat up the numbering and the section numbers and the references that are within the ordinance. And while we haven't had any questions on changes that are substantive, the codifier did find a handful of text changes due to errors in reference numbers and appendices that were within the ordinance. And so not in a rapid manner, but we do need to look towards a schedule for having those typographical errors addressed. And we're kind of holding back on any kind of greater change that would need to be made to the ordinance. And the biggest thing that sets out in front of us right now is in our forethought, we did put in Bulletin 70, the definition of it, in anticipation of the changes that were going on with the updated Bulletin 70 at the state level. We did modify that definition to require that as of January 1st, 2020, all of our certified communities were required to use the most updated version of Bulletin 70, which is what it was being called at the time that we approved the ordinance on June 1st of 2019. But in their wisdom, they produced two different documents that they've now combined and called together Bulletin 75. And so we do want to go back and update it, though we feel that it's clear in the language and the definition. We've reviewed it through our state's attorney's office that the most updated version of the rainfall is to be used for permits starting on January 1st of this year. We do want to reference that final document, which is the combination of the updated Bulletin 70 and a new document, which together are called Bulletin 75. So we will be looking at how we're going to proceed with that. Any changes to the ordinance, as you're aware, are required to go through a public hearing process. Notification needs to go out to IDNR and FEMA and IEPA. And it needs to be publicly noticed in the newspaper. So it's quite a bit of work for a fairly small change, but we'd like to probably get that completed before the end of the year and make sure that we're meeting all the requirements of the ordinance for public notification and the requirements that are in there for notification to our public bodies, IEPA and IDNR. So that's all I had. I just wanted to update the committee on the process that's gone on in regards to the rollout of the revision ordinances, as well as these minor typographical amendments that will be forthcoming. Any questions?
Thanks, Jody. Any questions from the committee? And I know you didn't state exactly when we might reconvene this body to review and approve those changes, but you're thinking at some point in 2020?
Yes, and we certainly will accept any kind of feedback from the committee. I know a lot of challenges out there with scheduling additional meetings right now. So if it was the will of the committee that this be pushed into 2021, we're certainly able to do that. Otherwise, our intent would be to schedule some meetings sometime this fall to begin that process.
Yeah, sounds good. Kind of while we're on that topic real quick, unless anybody has any other questions, what's the feedback been from the municipalities, developers, farmers on the new ordinance? Any, glowing reviews or recommendations?
I think in general, what we've heard is that it's much easier to use. I know there's been some questions in regards to the requirement of the best management practices with the significant removal of impervious area on a property. So several communities actually asked us when they have a developer coming in and they meet that threshold to require a best management practice, if the developer is significantly reducing the impervious area of the site. So for example, they have 100% impervious currently in their new development, they're only going to have 50%. By the requirements in the ordinance, they would need to provide a best management practice. But it does specify in the ordinance that if they're reducing the runoff by 10%, which would be 90% of the pre-development rate, that the BMP requirement is met. So I think some of our communities in the more densely populated area are finding that to be an attractive option for developers in achieving the goals of the ordinance with the reduction of impervious area. So many of the questions that we've received are along that lines in regards to that new requirement for the 5,000 square feet for the BMPs. But we've also received some questions in regards to the offsite outfalls because that section was beefed up quite a bit. And the challenges related to some of the developments in meeting those requirements have kind of come to fruition as we would have anticipated in some challenging situations with some downstream property owners. And so it's interesting to see kind of as the permits come in, how that section is being addressed. And we personally, under the unincorporated Kane County, have seen a kind of a great benefit in a lot more communication with our neighboring communities with the requirement of soliciting comments from either drainage districts or downstream municipalities. There's been, at least on our end, a lot more coordination that's occurred because of the fact that the neighbors are being aware of the development before it's already under construction. And so there's been some very constructive conversations that have occurred because of that new requirement. And it certainly is a preventative measure before you go too far and exacerbate a problem that might be in a downstream community. It provides the opportunity for that community to speak on behalf of those residents and try to work together with the permitting community to provide a great benefit to all those citizens.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sounds good to me. Any questions for Jody or for staff on this or anything else? And any other new or unfinished business to come before the committee? All right. Well, thank you all for joining today. And as you guys are all aware, Dale Berman now owes me $5 for running the meeting. And hopefully we'll see you guys in a few months. Everybody stay safe, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.